in academia, scholars sometimes talk about a turn, a way of kind of capturing sort of a key moment, a constitutive moment, when it's not a passing fad, there's something meaningful and enduring that is changing. So over the past 10 to 20 years, we've seen in journalism an emphasis on an emotional turn, a data turn, recently, and very importantly, an audience turn. And the AI turn is the one that hadn't really been discussed. And so Tomas Dodds and Rodrigo Zameth and I tried to kind of bring together some ways of thinking about what is the AI turn? What are we seeing? What kind of wave of change is happening? And what does it mean for journalism's roles, relationships, and routines? And so we focused on four kind of orienting themes that we feel like really bring together what this turn is all about. Well, first, we talk about hype and adoption. I mean, I think we see hype all around us, but one of the things we argue, and we've also said this elsewhere in a commentary just published recently, is that hype is really valuable. It's valuable because it's a social signal about cultural as well as material resources, about how people are investing their time and energy and making key decisions. And of course, in journalism right now, there's just a lot of hype about what AI may or may not do. And the metaphor that we use in the piece is to talk about the hamster wheel. So over the past 30 years, there's kind of been this story of journalism and technology, one of a hamster wheel where journalists have been, asked to do more and more, to work faster and faster, and the wheel just spins and spins. But in many cases, journalists might argue that they feel like they're just moving in place, that they haven't really seen the kind of high value achievements that we might expect from all of the work that they've been doing, not just in doing reporting in traditional ways, but also trying to engage on social media, using metrics and using data and all these kinds of things. So there's a question about like understanding AI as a means of from a hype and adoption standpoint. The next theme that we explore is power and dependency, because certainly AI increases its dependence on big tech companies that supply the infrastructure. And this risks deepening platform dependency, a real kind of asymmetrical relationship that exists between journalism and the platform companies. We also talk about audiences and democratic implications because AI can certainly enhance new forms of personalization and access and affordability even of news, but it also, of course, risks all kinds of things from disinformation to AI slop, which we see a lot of today, and just deepening a sense of distrust in quality content online. And finally, we also talk about education and empowerment because I think that AI turn is also embedded in how journalism education is conducted today, the kinds of challenges we face in preparing students for AI-oriented newsrooms and forms of work. And what does it look like to really empower people with AI literacy? AI literacy that in some ways is the new media literacy. So broadly speaking, I mean, there's so many ways in which we can see that there are fundamental changes afoot on account of AI. It doesn't mean that everything is going to change, but rather we need kind of conceptual resources and tools for making sense of the change, for kind of drawing together a picture of why this is a critical juncture for the field and why we need to kind of bring to bear a whole variety of approaches to study it adequately.
So the paper states that AI is making us rethink what journalism is and how it connects with audiences. And I know you had started touching on this in your previous answer, but could you walk me through what that looks like in practice and explain what exactly is changing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think one of the interesting aspects of digital technologies and journalism is that we have to think about what has it done to the relationship between journalists and their audiences. For example, there are audience metrics now that give journalists a much clearer idea about what people might prefer to see in their stories, much more so than we had decades ago. But on the other hand, we have ways in which you have these intermediaries, these disintermediaries that sit in between journalists and their audiences, whether it's platform companies that control the means of distribution in many ways. Essentially, like journalists are publishing stories, but they have far less control over how those stories actually reach people. And so there's a degree to which, journalists are dependent on the platforms in order to reach people. Now we add AI to the mix where people might use AI as an answer engine that provides answers without actually pointing in link form to the news story, or at least leading people to the news site. So theoretically, it could be kind of one more thing situated in between news organizations and the audiences with whom they want to cultivate a relationship. And so ostensibly, that would be bad for democracy. That would be bad for journalism. But I think it's a there's a complicated set of just things that we have to sort out here. Like what we don't really know yet, I think essentially is what we're talking about. There has been this fascination with the audience in the audience turn in journalism studies, but we still have a lot yet to understand in terms of what it means for an AI-oriented modes of news production to either connect with, to perhaps alienate, or ultimately to be successful in engaging audiences. And I think that's going to be one of the critical kind of bridges for news organizations to cross is how do they move into the AI era at a time when a lot of people do express skepticism about AI created content, when a lot of people feel like they don't know what they can trust online. How do journalists engage with AI in ways that don't further undermine the trust that unfortunately is already really low in journalism?